After moving to a new city for my husband's dream job, I overheard him on the phone whispering, "She's finally trapped here. She has no one." My heart sank as he continued, "Now we can get rid of her." Trembling, I packed my bags, but as I opened the door, he stood there smirking, "Going somewhere?" I smiled and replied, "Actually, yes. Your boss is waiting for me." His face went white as he realized. "I'm Rachel. I'm 42, and until last year, I lived my whole life in Asheville, North Carolina. I was a first-grade teacher at a public elementary school. I liked my routine. I liked my life. My husband, Nick, though, he always wanted more. He said he was built for something bigger. That staying in Asheville was like living in a cage. We'd been married 12 years when he got the offer in Omaha, Nebraska. A big job at a private logistics firm. Senior Director of Operations, whatever that meant. He told me it was the break he'd been waiting for. The job that would set us up so I could stop working, maybe finally start the family we always talked about. He made it sound like we were taking a step forward together. He begged me to come. Said we were a team. So I left everything, my family, my job, my friends, and moved across the country for his dream. At first, I was trying to stay positive. The apartment they put us in was cold and sterile, but I figured it was temporary. He was busy right away. Long hours. Always texting. Always meetings. At first, I thought that was normal. But Nick started acting different. Not just stressed, weird. He was on edge. He locked his phone, even in the shower. He didn't talk much when he came home. Barely looked at me during dinner. And he hadn't touched me in weeks. I'd ask if everything was okay, and he'd just say, "I'm tired," or "Work's a mess." Always something. The loneliness hit hard. I didn't know a single person in Omaha. He worked weekends. I'd sit in that apartment, staring at the walls, telling myself to hang in there. That it was temporary. Then it happened. It was a Thursday night. I had gone to bed early with a headache, but I woke up around midnight. I was thirsty. I walked quietly to the kitchen, passing Nick's office on the way. The door was cracked open, and I could hear him whispering. I stopped. At first I thought it was a work call, but his tone was off. Too quiet. Too calculated. Something in me said to stay still and listen. "She's finally trapped here," he said. My stomach flipped. She has no one. I pressed my back against the wall. My hands started shaking. I couldn't breathe. Now we can get rid of her. My whole body went numb. I stood there frozen, barely breathing. I didn't hear the rest. I couldn't. I backed away and went straight back to bed, laying down like nothing happened. I kept my eyes closed when he came in, heart racing the whole time. He crawled in next to me like it was just another night. The next morning, I sat in the bathroom with the door locked, trying to hold myself together. I kept replaying those words in my head. Trapped here. Get rid of her. I didn't know if he meant divorce. Or something worse. I didn't plan to stick around to find out. I packed a bag slowly, careful not to draw attention. Just the basics, some cash, a few clothes, IDs. I figured I'd find a cheap motel, get my head straight, then call my sister. Maybe even go to the police if I had more proof. As I zipped the bag shut, I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't just fear. It was betrayal. Pure and raw. He asked me to give up everything for him. And I did. And now he was talking about getting rid of me like I was a piece of trash. I grabbed my bag, walked to the door, and put my hand on the knob. And that's when I heard his voice behind me. Going somewhere? He was standing there. Calm. Too calm. He was smirking. I froze. I didn't want him to see fear, so I smiled. "Actually, yes," I said. "Your boss is waiting for me." His smirk disappeared. His face went pale. He blinked like he didn't understand at first. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. See, what Nick didn't know was that I had already made a move. A few weeks earlier, at a company barbecue, I met his boss, Henry McCall. Mid-60s, sharp, polite, no-nonsense kind of guy. We had a nice conversation over burgers. He asked about North Carolina, mentioned his daughter had gone to college near there. Said something like, "If you ever need anything, let me know." At the time, I thought it was just being polite. But after I heard Nick's call, I remembered those words. So the morning after, while Nick was in the shower, I used my old teaching laptop, he didn't know I still had it, and sent Henry a message. Just a short email. I didn't say Nick threatened me. I just said something felt wrong and I didn't feel safe. That I had heard something disturbing and didn't know who to turn to. That was enough. Henry replied 2 hours later. Asked me to meet him, no appointment, no formalities. Told me to come to the office, said he'd be waiting personally. So yeah, when I told Nick, "Your boss is waiting for me," I wasn't bluffing. And I wasn't alone. There was a black SUV idling at the curb. Henry's driver. I saw him through the window. He stepped out when he saw Nick at the door. Nick's eyes darted from me to the car. He knew something was off. He reached for my arm, but I stepped back and the driver moved toward us. Nick stopped. For the first time in our whole marriage, I saw real fear in his eyes. But this wasn't the end. This was just the start. Nick didn't say a word as I walked past him. He just stood there, jaw tight, watching me step into that SUV like he couldn't believe it was really happening. The driver, a quiet guy named Joel, didn't speak either. He just opened the door and nodded once. We drove in silence for 10 minutes, the city still waking up around us. I stared out the window, clutching my bag like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. When we pulled into the parking garage under the office building, I felt my nerves spike. I didn't know what Henry was going to say. I didn't even know if I was in danger or just paranoid. All I had were a few terrifying words whispered in the dark. But when the elevator doors opened, Henry was already there, waiting for me. "Rachel," he said, serious but calm. "Come with me." His office was nothing like Nick described it, no leather chairs or gold trim, just clean lines and papers stacked in neat piles. He offered me coffee. I said no. My hands were shaking too much. I sat across from him and told him everything. What I heard. How Nick had changed. How I felt like I was being watched, how even the apartment felt unsafe. I didn't hold back. When I finished, Henry sat back in his chair, let out a slow breath, and said something that made my skin crawl. "We've been looking into Nick for a few months now," he said. "But I didn't think it was this bad." I blinked. "Looking into him for what?" Henry leaned forward, lowering his voice. "There's money missing. Small amounts, but consistent. Vendor payments that were never authorized. Duplicate invoices. Fake suppliers. We thought maybe someone in accounting was playing games, but now, I think it's bigger than that." I stared at him. My mouth was dry. "You think he's stealing from you?" Henry didn't answer. He just nodded slowly. And then he dropped the real bomb. "We also traced one of those fake vendors to a small account in Asheville. Opened in your name." My stomach turned. I started. "I know," Henry said. "We already started digging before you emailed me. He's trying to pin the fraud on you, Rachel. He's been setting this up for a while." The room felt like it tilted. My own husband. The man I moved across the country for. The man I gave everything to. He was trying to frame me. I sat there, frozen, as Henry got up and went to his filing cabinet. He pulled out a thin folder and slid it across the desk. Inside were photocopies, bank records, signatures, emails. I didn't even recognize the email address tied to the vendor I supposedly set up. "Nick created this paper trail 6 months ago," Henry said. "Even before you moved here. I don't think this was ever about a job. I think it was always about you." I couldn't speak. My throat burned. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Henry leaned forward. "But I think we can stop him if you're willing to help." That snapped me out of it. "I'll do whatever it takes," I said. And I meant it. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was war. Henry outlined the plan. It wasn't just about proving fraud, it was about getting Nick to confess. They needed leverage, something to push him. Something that would make him drop the act and show his real face. That's where I came in. "You're the only one he trusts," Henry said. "If you can keep playing the role for just a little longer, we can get what we need." I didn't want to. Every part of me wanted to scream in his face, pack my things, and run. But I couldn't. Not just because of what he tried to do to me, but because if I ran now, he'd win. He'd keep the money. He'd ruin my name. He'd walk away clean. So I agreed. I went back home that night. Nick was in the kitchen, drinking a beer like nothing had happened. But I saw the twitch in his eye, the tightness in his jaw. "You went to see Henry?" he asked, casual. I nodded. "Just needed someone to talk to." He paused. "What did you say?" I shrugged. "Just that you've been distant. That I'm lonely." He looked at me for a long time. Then he smiled. That sick, empty smile. "Good," he said. "Smart to keep things quiet." I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream. But I smiled back. Over the next few days, I played my part. I acted like I was trying to reconnect, like I was working things out. I cooked dinner. I asked him about his day. I even let him sleep in the same bed. And every night, after he fell asleep, I'd sneak into the bathroom and text Henry updates. Then came the break. One night, Nick got drunk. Not the fun kind. The sloppy, angry kind. He started ranting about work, about pressure, about how people always wanted to see him fail. And then he said it. "Everybody thinks I'm some idiot from Asheville," he slurred. "But I planned this whole damn thing. Every dollar. Every document. She was never supposed to know." He was looking at me when he said it. I kept my face blank. The next morning, Henry had me bring Nick into the office for a surprise meeting. Said it was about a new project. Nick was excited. He even wore his best suit. But when we got there, 2 men from corporate security were waiting. And behind them, a federal investigator. Nick's face drained as they read off the list of charges. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. They had it all. The vendor accounts, the email trails, the fake invoices, his voice on tape confessing. And then, Henry played the recording. The one from the night he got drunk. The one I'd sent them. Nick turned to me. "You bitch," he spat. I didn't flinch. I just looked him in the eye and said, "You did this to yourself." They took him out in handcuffs. But it wasn't over yet. Not for me. After Nick was arrested, I thought I'd feel free. Relieved. Maybe even safe. But I didn't. Not really. Because the fallout was just beginning. The very next morning, someone threw a rock through the window of the apartment. No note. No sign of who did it. Just shattered glass and silence. When the cops came, they said it might have been random. But I knew better. Nick had friends. Allies. People who probably didn't know the full truth or didn't care. Some of them might have been in on it. Maybe even helped him cook the books. And now I was the reason he was behind bars. The messages started soon after. Blocked numbers. Voicemails with no voice, just breathing. Emails telling me I ruined everything. That I was going to pay. That I was next. I moved out of the apartment the same day. Henry paid for a hotel across town and put security outside my door. I couldn't go back to North Carolina yet, too many loose ends. The federal investigation was just getting started. They wanted me nearby for interviews, statements, court prep. So I stayed. Day after day, waiting. And then came the letter. No return address. Just my name, in handwriting I recognized instantly. Nick's. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You think you've won," it said. "But you were never the target." I stared at those words for a long time. My hands went cold. My mind ran in circles. What did he mean? Never the target? I called Henry immediately. He brought the letter to the legal team. The FBI looked at it too. But there wasn't much they could do. It wasn't a direct threat. Just enough to shake me. That night, I sat in the hotel lobby, staring at nothing, when a woman sat down across from me. Rachel, right? She looked about 30. Sharp, polished. I didn't recognize her. Do I know you? No. But I knew Nick. Well enough. She reached into her purse and slid a photo across the table. It was a picture of her holding a baby. Nick was standing beside her, smiling. My blood ran cold. This is my son, she said. Nick's son? I couldn't speak. I didn't know about you, she said. Not until after the arrest. I found your name in the articles. Then I found your photo. I looked at the baby in the picture. He had Nick's eyes. Why are you here? I asked. Because he told me the same thing he told you, she said. That we were going to build a life together. That he had a plan. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was the only one, she said. But apparently, there were more. More. Plural. She opened her phone and pulled up a folder full of pictures. Screenshots. Emails. Messages. 3 other women. All had lived in different cities. All had fallen for Nick's lies. All were promised the same dream. All had given him money, time, trust. And now we were all left behind, picking up the pieces. I think he was setting all of us up, she said. Not just you. He was using every woman to cover his tracks. It made sense. Horrible, sick sense. That's why he wanted me in Omaha. That's why he kept me isolated. That's why he acted like I was in the way, because once I served my purpose, I was. This wasn't just a man cheating. This was a man running a con. She handed me a slip of paper with her number. If you want to go after him the right way, she said, you won't do it alone. And, just like that, everything changed. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice for all of us. And I wasn't done yet. The other women and I started meeting once a week at a quiet little diner on the edge of town. We called it the Wives Club, though not all of us were married to him. Some were just girlfriends. One woman, Gina, had even gotten engaged to him while I was still packing boxes in Asheville. Each of us had been told we were the one. Each of us had been used, financially, emotionally, sometimes both. And when we compared timelines and stories, the picture got clearer. Nick had been running a long game. He rotated between cities, setting up fake vendors, using his girlfriends and wife as the faces of these fake businesses. He moved fast, never staying too long in one place. But when he got the Omaha job, he saw an opportunity. A big corporate firm with loose oversight and deep pockets. And he saw me, his loyal, quiet wife, as the perfect fall guy. Once the investigators realized this was bigger than they thought, the case went federal. The charges piled up. He was facing serious time. But there was one problem. Nick was still manipulating people. From jail. We found out through one of the other women who had a cousin working at the jail. Nick had managed to get a burner phone smuggled in. He was talking to someone on the outside. Someone moving money around. Someone trying to finish what he started. I made the call. Put me in the same room as him. The prosecutor thought I was crazy. But I told them I knew how he talked, how he lied, how he worked. If anyone could get him to slip, it was me. They agreed. Set up a controlled visit, with cameras, wires, everything. When I walked into that visitor's room and saw Nick behind the glass, he smiled like I was still his. Miss me? He asked. I stared at him. You ruined my life. He leaned back, smug. Please. You were bored and lonely. I gave you something to fight for. I felt my jaw clench. But I stayed calm. I needed him to talk. You know they're going to throw you under the jail, right? He laughed. Not if they don't have the full story. I tilted my head. What do you mean? He smirked. Let's just say not all of that money came from me. My stomach dropped. I leaned forward. Are you saying one of the other women helped you? I'm saying, he whispered, I didn't move a single dollar without help. That was it. The confession. He just admitted it. Not only was he behind the fraud, but he had partners. He thought he was being clever. Thought he was still playing me. But every word was being recorded. The next day, his world collapsed for good. They traced the outside phone activity, found his accomplice, an old college buddy working in the finance department at the company. He was the one who helped Nick forge documents, clear transactions, and cover his tracks. Nick was hit with a new list of charges. The trial was ugly. He tried to twist the story, paint himself as a victim, claim I was the one who turned on him first. That I stole from him, not the other way around. His lawyer played the marriage card hard, called me emotional, unstable, even said I was vengeful. They weren't wrong about that last part. Because I sat on that stand, looked the jury in the eye, and told them every single thing he did. And when I was done, I looked Nick in the eye and said one final thing. You taught me something. That when someone shows you who they are, you better believe it the first time. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentenced to 28 years. I should have felt victorious. But here's the truth, I wasn't innocent either. I saw signs. Years before. I ignored them. I thought love was supposed to mean giving up things. Sacrificing. I stayed quiet when I should have spoken up. I let myself get small so he could feel big. That's on me. And part of that revenge? It wasn't just about punishing him. It was about making sure I never let someone do that to me again. After the trial, I didn't go back to Asheville. I didn't go anywhere familiar. I packed what little I had left and moved to Denver. Started over. I took a job teaching again, smaller school, fewer hours. Just enough to keep my head above water. Sometimes I still get those quiet moments, late at night, when I think about the life I thought I had. The man I thought I knew. But then I remember how close I came to losing everything. And I remember the look on his face when they took him away. That's when I remind myself, I may have made mistakes. But I survived. And he's the one rotting in a cell. Forever trapped. Just like he wanted me to be.